passionate instigator and dynamic problem solver, Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, the host of the Dr. Kevin Radio Show, will be taking you outside the box, behind the curtain, and identifying the load of BS we are fed every day. And now, Dr. Kevin.
Hello, and welcome to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes, where we're changing the world, as you just finished hearing, one ohm at a time. That's what we do here on the Dr. Kevin Show. This being our second Thursday of the month, it is Thoughtful Thursday, where we bring you things to make you thoughtful, and we talk about people doing thoughtful things out in the world. And every now and then we've been known to suggest or share a thoughtful thing that we think that you could do or we've done. Because, you know, all those little thoughtful things, they add up. So normally we have Lori Powers-Otto as our co-host. Lori is unable to be here this week. Unfortunately, her four-legged child, Annie, her dog, passed away fairly suddenly in the last day or so. And we are sending Lori lots of love and support and lots of hugs. And as she gets through this time, for those of you who are beloved pet owners and have had a four-footed or even two-footed pet, you know, for 8, 10, 12 years or more, you know, it's like losing part of the family. So we wish Lori well. She will be back next week when we will be doing, well, actually, next week she won't be back. She'll be back the week after. Next week we have author George Booley Hosker on, and then the Thursday after that will be our Planetary Influences Thursday, because on these funky months with 5 Thursdays, they kind of break up a little bit different, and we'll be doing that with our astrologer from innercenter.org, Rob Stewart. Lori and myself will tell you what is the astrology going to be at the time of the election. You better stay tuned. And I would wear something fireproof, because there's going to be fireworks, and not the good kind. So anyways, all of that said, we do have the wonderful, the beautiful, the talented, the funny. Oh, that's right. I couldn't get her. I got Rayne instead. We have Rayne Thomas.
Boy, this is quite the intro.
Rayne is one of my 2 co-hosts for Laughing, Loving, and Alive, which you can listen to on the 2nd and 4th Sundays of every month. You can just tune into our Facebook, Laughing, Loving, and Alive page, and we have the show there, as well as we put it out in a number of other places, and you can call in or text in or whatever, and Elmer J. Howard, Rayne Thomas, and I keep you laughing, loving, and alive at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the 2nd and 4th Sundays of the month. But this is Thursday. And remember, this is a live call-in show. So feel free to call in if you have any questions for myself, for Rayne, if there's something you'd like to share. Remember, the only thing we ask is that it stays respectful.
Yes.
We support everybody's right to have an opinion. You can have whatever opinion that you would like, as long as it is done respectful. Any and all disrespectful comments are reserved for Rayne and myself. So just so you know. And you can do that calling in at 202-570-7057, 202-570-7057. And now, without further ado, we will have a selection by Miss Rayne Thomas. Miss Rayne, how selection are you?
I am awesome. How are you?
I'm all wound up with no place to go. I'm like one of those little toys you wound up and you put in the corner, and I just keep on hitting the wall and turn around and hit the other wall and turn around and hitting the wall. And when I slow down, they wind up my key again, and I do it all over.
I'm there with you today. It's been that kind of day, but that's good. I'm making progress.
Well, I guess if I'm getting a deeper dent in the wall, maybe there'll be a hole. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm digging a tunnel. What do you think?
Maybe. I'll meet you on the other side because I'm sure I'm digging it from the opposite end. I promise you. We'll meet in the middle.
Okay. Just remember what the passcode is. If anybody asks you what's up, it's I know nothing. I know nothing.
Is in that voice? I know nothing. I know nothing.
Can you tell me who that voice belongs to? That very famous phrase.
You know what? I grew up in New York City, and I have a lot of friends that lived in Chinatown, so that voice could have belonged to a whole lot of people.
Well, I guess my German accent is not very good then.
No, it's terrible.
Thanks. I know nothing.
That's better. It's not great, but it's better.
You would have to.
So who's
do
the
you
famous person that did it?
Sergeant Schultz from Hogan's Heroes.
Okay, first of all, I haven't seen Hogan's Heroes in like 50 years.
Yes, and your point? Are you telling us your memory is going?
The point is I can't even find my keys in the morning. Do you think I could remember that?
Oh, Sergeant Soul, it was such a famous thing. So anyways, welcome to Thoughtful Thursday,
boy.
and welcome to the Dr. Kevin Show.
I love you, Dr. Kevin. You're my sweetheart of sweethearts.
Oh, I love you too. There's nothing like getting drenched with a little rain.
That's right.
So anyway, so seriously, you are in, I want to do a little catch up before we start sharing some thoughtful stories or thought-provoking stories.
Okay.
And, but you are into the throes of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is a big month for you.
Yes,
you've
it
got
is.
a lot of you have a lot going on. I see you posting stuff all the time. And you're involved in all sorts of activities. I am actually walking with somebody who is a breast cancer survivor next Sunday for the walk that they're all doing like remotely, where you're walking individually.
Right.
You're doing. She was supposed to go to, I think it was like South Carolina or North Carolina is where they usually hold it. This particular one that she's hooked up with, it's supposed to be a big to-do one on the East Coast. That raises lots of money. And of course, with COVID, they did it separately. So when she told me that she was going to be walking, I said, well, I will come walk with you. We'll walk together. I will show you the trails of the place where I live, out in the forest, in the woods, and we can have a great walk and a great catch up, and we can get all your miles in. So,
well, how far are you guys walking for it tomorrow? That sounds fun.
I have to find out from her. I don't think it's a very long. I think it's for some reason I want to say I think maybe it's like a 10 or 15 mile walk. I don't think it's all that. It's not like it's not a huge walk.
10 or 15 miles. Most people would not even entertain a walk like that.
Oh, I have days where I walk 15, 18 miles just doing my stuff with my headphones in and on my phone working. Yeah.
I get that, but I'm just telling you, when I tell people, come do like a half marathon or, let's walk because, I mean, you run and you know how it is when you run. You may only set out to do a mile, but then you do 5 or 6.
Uh-huh.
You can't really convince people unless they come from a walking city too, that, 10, 12 miles is not far. Most people are like, yeah, I can't do that with you.
Oh, that is just a mentality mindset that has cuddled up with an excuse to have a love child of excuses.
Okay. Yes, I agree with you because I'm not that person. If you and I were on the same coast, or if you said let's walk and meet in the middle, which would be like what, Montana or something, we could do that.
Yeah, I'm thinking more like St. Louis.
We could do that. It'd be fun.
Well, there is this, I think it's called the El Camino, which is this huge pilgrimage walking trail that starts in France and goes through Spain. And people walk it every year, and they have hostels along the way and stuff like this. And it takes days and days to walk it. I can't remember how long it is. I know that Martin Sheen and Charlie Sheen and Amelia Estevez, which of course is Charlie Sheen's brother, and they're both Martin Sheen's sons. They did a movie on a guy who I think after his wife died did this walk, this pilgrimage to try to find his way again. And but it's supposed to be stunningly beautiful. And of course, I don't know how soon before any of that would ever be available. But that's one of the ones I have that if I were to have a bucket list, it would be on there. Would be to go spend. I think you have to spend like a week or 10 days, and you like walk every day. It's
right.
Yeah, it's a big thing. It's like doing the Appalachian Trail. Another one I'd like to do at some point.
I actually know 3 people who have done that. And just so you know, it's the Appalachian Trail because I've been corrected.
The Appalachian Trail.
Yes, because I'm like the Appalachian, and they're like, no, it's Appalachian. Oh, well, okay, sorry. I didn't know.
Oh, it's the Appy Pappy Trail.
Yes, and isn't that the same like the Great Wall of China? There's this walk. There's a book about it. It's a real story, and the guy, like 4 of his friends, like it was him and 4 friends that wanted to do this. And when they got there, the friends lasted like 3 or 4 days, and he decided to do like a month walk.
Yep. I mean, it is a huge transformational experience that can either be of connection with somebody or a connection with your own self and inner divine and inner purpose to do something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to do that. Sorry. I don't think I want to do that. I'm not that deep, but I don't think I'm that deep.
There is only one distance that I have found that is too intimidating for me to even try to consider to spend the amount of time it would take to get from one end of it to the other. That literally gives me nightmares at the thought of trying to do it.
And that would be, okay, that scares me if you say that.
Yep. That would be the distance between what Donald Trump says and the truth.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to stay far away from that.
Yeah, see, we don't talk.
Very far away.
We don't play with politics on our podcast, but I've been known to regularly get political zingers in here on the Dr. Kevin Show. So just
yeah, I'm going to stay away from that. I don't want people looking for me, and yeah, no.
I always want people looking for me. I charge them for the looks. Are you kidding? How do you think I pay my rent?
Oh, so there's something I need to know about that. How is that happening?
You're looking for me?
I can be bought.
You're looking for me? It takes a minimum of 5 $100 bills before I'll even tell you who I am to see if it's right. That's what answering the question costs you. Hey,
Oh boy.
A boy's got to have standards. So, for Thoughtful Thursday, I always put aside some stories of things I saw going around in the world. I invited you to do the same, but this all happened kind of last minute, so I don't know if you have anything that you were able to find. But knowing you probably have a plethora of them hanging around at the tip of your tongue. like Skittles.
You know me so well. You know me so well. So where you want to start?
Well, where I'm going to start, because I know in about 90 seconds our music is going to start, and we'll have our first commercial break. But what I'm going to do, because again, Thoughtful Thursday is not only about people doing thoughtful things in the world and what's going on, but it's also things to make you thoughtful. And so last week, I kind of like blurted, I had a creative vomit. Do you know what I mean? When you get a piece of creativity and it just goes, blah!
I get that.
And after I cleaned up the mess and I read what I wrote, after actually sharing it with the first person, that's how I edit my poetry, I came up with a title for it. And so when we get back, I'm going to read the poem and then tell you the title afterwards. That's how it came to be. But I do see this as something that right now in the world, with where we've come and what we're going through, that it is something that should be making you very thoughtful indeed. So, and right on cue, here comes the music. We'll be right back to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes.
Dun, 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 dun.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others, and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hello, and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show. So I actually texted when we were on break and found out that the walk that we're doing is only 10 miles. So I'm going to try to see if we can make up a couple of fake people and maybe do 20 miles and do 10 miles each under one, and then pick up fake people and see if we can get people that will pay for their miles, and so that can get donated. Because I don't know, 10 miles kind of seems like what you do to, go get your coffee in the morning and come back.
Maybe for you, but probably not for other people who try to park right inside of the coffee shop.
Yeah. Sucks to be them. Anyways, so
Yeah.
moving right along. So, are you ready?
I'm ready. Tell me what to do. I'm ready.
Well, I'm going to read the poem. Then I'm going to tell you the title, and then we're going to chat for a few minutes about the thoughtfulness part of it, and then I'm going to let you share your first Thoughtful Thursday story. How does that sound?
That sounds wonderful.
Okay, so here's the poem. From deep within my wound, I cry foul. How dare you question my right to feel sad, to feel hurt, to hate, to love, my right to be, my right to become. Of course you dare, and of course you can, and of course you do, for that is your right. With the healing of my wound comes the clarity that it is my right to not care, not answer, to not even have to engage. With the healing of the wound, I lose the need for validation, recognition, or approval. As I find my power, you lose your power over me, for I have taken it back.
Wow.
You like that? You can say no.
I love that. I love that.
So,
is that yours?
Yeah, I wrote that. I wrote that last week.
Of course. I love it.
And the title is Dear Social Media.
Okay. And the thoughtfulness?
The thought process, and I didn't know that's what I was writing it. It just came out. I was reading it to a friend of mine that was over for coffee the next day after I wrote it. And he happens to have a book out. I've had him on the show before called Social Capitalism. And when I finished reading the poem, and I hadn't titled it yet, I just knew it came out, I thought, Dear Social Media, this is all about how much cyberbullying is going on, how much people, especially now, where social media and online stuff is sometimes the only lifeline out of isolation, with the rhetoric and the divisiveness at an all-time high in our political system. And there are people out there on a regular basis that do harm to themselves, even kill themselves over cyberbullying.
Yeah.
And
that's very sad.
And it is very sad. And, you know, I want people to think, if somebody, especially when it's somebody you don't even know, you may never even met, doesn't even know who you really are, maybe knows you by a picture or something that you posted, goes after you, why do you care? Why should you care? Why should you engage? And I think that teaching people, especially young people and people that are very wounded, that are very sensitive, that may feel isolated, that may be struggling with depression or, which is on the rise because of what 2020 has been so far, that they need better skill sets and management tools and awarenesses of, if you're going to be on social media, you've got to learn how to use it as something that makes you feel included, connected, and like you're finding your tribe. And,
right.
And that there are very valuable things that can happen, and have happened, and will continue to happen through social media. But there are also many, many horrible things, terrible things, misinformation, and and things that just destroy people's self-worth and self-esteem. And, and I just really want my listeners to understand, if you're letting somebody that you may have met, so I posted I posted Beardless Beard Day on my timeline.
Yeah.
Yep. And I just said thoughts. And one of the people under thoughts wrote shallow. Okay.
Is it someone you know?
This is a guy I haven't seen for 20 years. We belong to the same business organization. We belong to a business organization together. I shouldn't say 20 years, probably 15 years. 15 years ago, we belonged to a business organization together, and we were both helping get people involved in the organization. At the time, I don't even know if he's still there. He was doing it in Nevada, in Las Vegas, and I was doing it in Seattle, Washington. And, so we had several interactions over a small period of time when we were both doing it. Haven't had much interaction since then of anybody, from somebody who was, promoting and supporting a business organization, should have understood the need to market and PR and do things and, and engage people. This is it. And he wrote shallow. And I put underneath, I went, I asked for thoughts. Shallow. ... I sent it back, but I had no energy on it because I was like, it's all his. I don't know where he is.
Right.
I don't know what his struggle is. I don't know what his shame button is. But
right. Why would you give in to that?
Yeah. But you and I know people do it all the time.
Right. Right. And it damages a lot of people.
Well, what it does is it throws salt in wounds that are already there. Because if you didn't have the wounds, it wouldn't land.
Right. 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 You're picking at a scab for sure.
Yes. And so the gift of having somebody trigger you on social media can be a gift if you look at it as, I got something I need to look at. It has nothing to do with them. Dickheads. The internet's full of them.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean anything. And if it is somebody you know, or somebody that's your friend, or somebody you respect, well, then that's a whole different issue. But and that's that. And that happens as well. But it's like, oh, look, I've still got something there I need to look at. Thank you, because in your dickheaded moment, I got an epiphany that I have a wound to work on, and you really helped me, and I appreciate that. And I wanted to let you know before I deleted and blocked you. Thanks.
Yeah, I can't let you work on my wounds because you know what? It's never good to poke the bear or shake the cage.
So
I got to get you out of there before that happens.
Yeah. There's one or two survivors of people. There are one or two people that have survived poking the bear of Dr. Kevin. The rest of them, their bodies were never found. I don't know what happened to them.
Nor should they be.
No. So that's why I thought this belonged on Thoughtful Thursday.
I think that's very thoughtful because it's mindful and it encompasses everyone.
So share one of your Thoughtful Thursday stories of something going on in the world that is thoughtful, or some person that's doing thoughtful action or whatever.
Well, I can't even share a person because there's so many thoughtful people out there for me. I've been doing this whole breast cancer thing since 1976. So there have been so many people that have just been so gracious and wonderful. Even when I was going through my treatment, I had strangers opening their doors and letting me stay with them and, taking care of stuff and not letting me pay for stuff. So I always know every day that I'm blessed. Even my friendship with you, which came from, Elmer and just we hit it off. That's such a blessing to me because I know that doesn't happen for everybody. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And some of it takes the ability to have a willingness. It's the question and the way you ask it in your head that makes the difference.
Right. And everybody can't do that because, of course, that goes back to your poem about social media and, you know, and everybody likes all the crazy drama. I've never liked that. You know, I had that as a background. It's terrible. So there's a poem that I like, and it's written by someone called Ramesh T.A., and it's called A Food for Everything. And I just love this. It says, meals are the food for the body. Knowledge is the food for the mind. Meditation is the food for the spirit. Music is the food for the love of heart. Dreams are the food for the consciousness. Prayer is the food for the Almighty. Love is the food for the living heart. Thoughts are the food for the brain. Colorful ink is the food for the pen. Ideas are the food for the stories. Truth is the food for the will. Sun's energy is the food for the plants. Plants are the food for the living beings. But one man's food is another man's poison.
Okay, now. Well, I mean, I like the circular. This would be a poem I would read 2 or 3 times because there's like that circular pattern that speaks to me of look at the connectiveness flow of all things.
Right.
And all things you can choose to have feed you or poison you.
Right. I.e. social media. You know? And even, well, there's always that fine line out there between who does service as an act of love and as a natural act of who they are. And then there is the person who does service because they have to, because they're supposed to, because they have an agenda, whether they realize or not that they have it. And when you take from their plate, that food is poisoned. Right. I love it.
You know,
I love the insight. I think there's so much to be said about food, because I know when we say food, most people think of, you know, food, of course. But there's so many other ways to feed your mind, body, soul, spirit to create balance. And if saying a kind word or doing something kind that's not self-serving creates a balance for someone else, doesn't that just make the world a better place to live?
Oh, absolutely. And that's, you know, and that's that whole thing about lots of little things. And that's one of the reasons, like, we try to find these, you know, Lori is a master at finding these stories about 8-year-olds that do this and 11-year-olds that did that. And she's always like, you know, so an 8-year-old did that, you know, so an 8-year-old is out there doing that, you know, helping out at the animal shelter because of all the stuff going on, or doing this or doing that. An 8-year-old is doing that. And I hear adults all the time going, oh, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. And
don't get me started.
Well, you know, and that's one of the reasons, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I do this show once a month is I want to inspire people. I want to motivate them. I want to give them something they can do. So here's one of my stories. So there was this, I think she's about 8 or 9. I don't have the story written in front of me, but I think she was 8 when it started, and maybe she's 9 now. But she loved to write letters. And she would make letters that were works of art. Like, she'd draw pictures on them, and she would, you know, use all different kind of colors and pens, and each one was unique. And she just really loved letter writing. And after all of the COVID stuff started hitting and all the other things, she started sending out even more letters. And then one day, she wrote a love letter to her mailman to thank him for taking all of her letters to these people so that they know that they're loved. And he was so touched. He was so touched that he wrote her a letter back, and he showed it to her supervisor. And the supervisor posted it on some like employee thing from postal worker, and this young girl telling this postal man how important he was and how much his job meant and how much, how grateful she was for him. And she started getting letters from postal workers across the country thanking her. And she responded to every one of them. Then she starts getting people who says, my Grammy is all by herself because nobody can do, and you probably don't have time, but this is her name and address. And if you could write her a letter, I know she'd really appreciate it. She literally is writing hundreds and hundreds of letters to people she's never met and sends them on. I mean, like they bring one of the mail tote things, like you see them bring into like an office full of letters.
Yeah, the rolling
one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what they bring to her house, full of mail.
Oh my God.
And she goes through every one of them, and she answers every one of them, no matter how long it takes her, and she makes everyone special and unique, because everyone out there is special and unique, and they all deserve to get a love letter.
And that's what it's supposed to be. That's who we're supposed to be.
Yeah. And, and...
Wow. Uh-oh. There's that music.
There's that music. We're going into our final break, and we'll be back for one last segment with my ever special, sparkly guest host, Rayne Thomas.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
911, what is your emergency?
My kid shot himself.
All right, where's the wound, sir?
911, what's your emergency?
Please help, my son shot his brother.
911, what is your emergency?
Okay.
911, please state your emergency.
Every day, 8 kids and teens are unintentionally killed or injured by loaded and unlocked guns.
It wasn't locked.
Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and End Family Fire.
Hello, and welcome back to the final segment of this week's Dr. Kevin Show. And again, on this week, as we always do on the second Thursday of the month, we have Thoughtful Thursday, where we try to share and inspire and motivate by people that are doing thoughtful things in the world to, and we'd like to recognize you. And if you'd like to share something that you're doing that's thoughtful in the world, that maybe somebody else could say, hey, I could do that in my neighborhood. I could do that in my town. I could do that in my workplace. I could do that in my family. I can do this. I can put this little bit of love out in the world. Because if you all put just a little piece more love out in the world, just a little piece more, if all of you that are listening to this show and will listen to it on the next 6 days of repeats and might listen to the archives, we would have a tsunami of change. It was one little drop at a time. and you're the draw. But you can call in at 202-570-7057. That's 202-570-7057. And you can share your droplet of thoughtfulness, of insight, of guidance, of love. Or you can ask a question. You can do everything and anything as long as it's respectful. Today's special guest host is Rayne Thomas, who I share a pod show with. Yay, Rayne! Her own, she's not a droplet, her own tsunami, Rayne Thomas, who sings, now I'm going to say this wrong and you're going to scream at me. You sing the blues, yes?
You nailed it.
Oh, and that's why they call it the blues. Oh, sorry.
Close enough.
She's singing, who sings the blues. She is an actress. She is a songwriter. She's a musician. She is fabulous and fantastic, and she is somebody who is an uber super connector. She brings more pieces together than 100,000-piece puzzles to help move and shake and motivate and inspire. And she does a lot of this because she herself is a breast cancer survivor, to help Breast Cancer Awareness Month, to raise money, to help other projects, and to help people that are in need. And people helped her when she was in need. And she is the original give back kid.
Pow, pow. If you could see me, I'd be blowing the smoke off of both fingers. You get like pow, pow.
Yep.
Yes, that is. I believe we're supposed to all get along and take care of each other. That's actually my hashtag, is hashtag take care of each other, hashtag take care of yourself. Hashtag I am my sister's keeper. Hashtag I am my brother's keeper.
So, you know, and going back before I see if you have a story you'd like to share, because again, you know, sometimes if you share an individual person, you know, story of somebody who's just doing something, especially something so simple, like this little girl writing the letters. Right. Yeah, you don't have to commit to write the amount of letters she does. Good.
Right. I have a great story. I have a jillion, but this one in particular. So my friend, we call him Doc, and his name is Stephen Beats, and Doc and his sister Cherie own a beautiful home in Scottsdale, and I had only known them a couple of months when I was diagnosed out there, and they let me stay there, and all day he would read to figure out what could get the toxins out of my body after treatment, and his sister Cherie, she worked, so when she came home, we went walking. We never discussed anything about breast cancer, and Cherie would always surprise me with, you know, little gifts or shopping, and Doc would surprise me all these over-the-top meals. But he'd also go, and he does this all the time, before I even came around, but he'll go to a neighbor's house. They don't even have to know him, and he'll just go plant random flowers or pull all their weeds. And we're talking about a guy who's in his 60s, and he's like, because that's a little thing. That's a little thing that brings homeowners that can't step outside because they're, you know, elderly or handicapped or they don't have time. Do you know the joy that brings to someone to go through neighborhoods and just like plant flowers?
Yep. And yeah, and these are the kind of things of the little thing you can do. There's one of the stories that I actually had for this week was this guy who has, you know, has terminal cancer, and I can't tell you what kind, but he has terminal cancer. And as he was kind of, you know, taking care of things, one of his quote unquote regrets, or one of his things, was that he got sick before he had a chance to paint him and his wife's house. And like, this guy's in his 60s, and he wanted to paint his wife's house. He promised he would paint the house her favorite color. And then he got sick, and then he never got enough health back to ever do that. And he was just sharing that as one of his regrets. And a whole bunch of his neighbors and friends all came together. They got the paint. They bought the paint because cancer's expensive. They got the paint. They bought the paint, and they came and they painted the house so he could see the house painted his wife's favorite color before he passed.
Wow. Yeah. Such a small but grand gesture.
And the thing is, one of the reasons I started this particular Thursday is that shit is going on all the time, and it's the last thing we hear about. We hear about
every single day.
Yep.
You're absolutely right. That's terrible.
And that's why, if I was back to doing a daily show, because, I had a time period where I did a show 5 days a week.
Wow.
Never again, but I did it. For a couple of years, I had a show 5 days a week. But in this day and age, one of my weekly shows would be like Thoughtful Thursday. I would do this at least once a week. Here is some good news. If you're not finding it, well, actually, it's not that hard to find if you're looking for it. But if you're somebody who just doesn't have the energy, can't stand to go on that computer one more time to look things up because they've had so many things on their computer, things like this, then here, let's share some things to make you feel good about the world. Let's share some things to make you feel good about 8-year-olds. And we have had stories about 12-year-olds and 17-year-olds and you name it, that are out there doing things. There was a 6-year-old we talked about, a 5 or 6-year-old that we talked about, who did, for his birthday party, he asked everybody to donate to his friend who had cancer to help her get something she needed. I can't remember because we did this story a while ago. But again, we have to hear it. We have to keep these stories out front. We have to let people know. And you too are an everyday hero. And you may even be doing something as an everyday hero and not even think about it that way. How often do we hear somebody that's doing something really great and they go, it was just the right thing to do.
Or you just do it because that's who you are. It's your character.
Yep. So now I'm going to pull up my thing and see what I'd like to share next, unless you have one off the top of your head, because I keep a little list because that's how I make this thing work.
I don't. I just do everything under Prunes Are Sexy because, there's no drama on my page. There's no craziness. It's all about inspiring others to be the best that they can be every day. And understanding that if you just look around, other people can inspire you as well.
Yep. So here is an interesting one. And again, I tell people all the time, I don't do work, I do joy. I get paid to get up every day and be me. It doesn't get any better than that. And this is what everybody should be shooting for. Everybody should be shooting for finding their gifts, their talents, their place in the world, where they can be celebrated and rewarded and treated respectfully for being themselves, because that has value and we just don't recognize it, nor do we honor it. But the story I want to share is happened in Greece, and there was this Greek athlete who I didn't recognize his name because I don't follow sports, but there was this Greek athlete, and one of the things he did in between like sporting events was he would climb all of these different mountains. And he got introduced at some point through this woman. She was 22 years old. And somehow he talked about the different places. And one of the places he climbed was Mount Olympus. And this 22-year-old woman was disabled. And she said, I always wanted to climb Mount Olympus, but obviously that's not going to happen. He strapped her to his back and carried her up to Mount Olympus, fulfilling her lifelong dream.
That's absolutely incredible. And what an incredible thing to do for another person.
The long-distance runner, Marios Giannakou.
We got to
I'm going to try to pronounce
it.
GIANNAKOU. And underneath the posting of this radio, yes, him. I always put the links if I find them because I will go searching for things. I put the links so people can do them, so people can read them. But yeah, he did this for this 22-year-old biology student. I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name. It's worse than his. For those of us who don't speak Greek, no insult meant.
God.
And when he finished doing that, and he came down and they interviewed him, he said this: "For me, all international races, the medals, and the distinctions so far mean little compared to that goal."
Yeah. Yeah. How do you even top that?
Yeah. You know, and
it's so,
again,
it's simple.
It's one of those things where, so you're really good. You're a really good athlete. You're really good at something. There's somebody out there that like this girl, that if she had somebody who knew what they were doing, that could never do it on their own. I always remember this young man that I worked with, and his first name was John, and I had a period where I worked with people with disabilities, and he was legally blind. He was in a wheelchair from birth. He only had the use of one arm limitedly. And for years, because of all of his physical disabilities, they thought he was mentally retarded when he was actually had a speech problem because of the way he was born, but had a very good mind, but nobody knew it, and nobody bothered to find out.
Well, of course.
So I was spending time with John, and he told me that one of his dreams was he always wanted to see a Broadway musical. He always wanted to go to the theater, and this was before the American Disabilities Act. And in the town that he lived in, none of the theaters were handicapped accessible. So on actually several different occasions, because I had quite this is back in the day of albums, I had quite a number of show tune albums. I would take John and we would go I would bring John over to my house. I would play the album. I'd get him to listen to the songs, but as he did, I would describe for him what was going on stage. I created it like, okay, John, we got your seat in the theater ready. Come on and sit down. And the overture would come, and I'd describe to him what it looked like, because a lot of these were shows that I saw, or at least I could imagine. And I probably took him to, I don't know, 8 or 9 Broadway shows.
I love it. I love it. That's so kind and fun.
You know, and that's what I'm saying. People just, if you just stop and go, you know, yes, I'm scared right now. I'm scared of COVID. I'm scared of the election. I'm scared of who to believe. I'm scared of, all the things going around in the world. Am I going to lose my house? Am I going to keep my job? Is my industry going to go out of business? There's all this stuff going on. But if you get up, and I constantly give people, my clients, the homework assignment of print up a copy of the Serenity Prayer, post it every place you can see it.
Right.
When you start to get in a spiral, go through it. Can you change it?
Right.
And if you
ground
can't,
yourself.
If you can't change it, if you can't do anything about it, then you just have to let it go, and then stop and think, what can I do? Can I do the project I always wanted? Can I scrapbook all those pictures into an album? Is there somebody I can reach out to? Is there something I can do, something kind? Do you know that I at times have, when working with clients with depression, have given them kind and nice things to do for other people? And without exception, if I can get them to do them, and I can't always, but I usually do because I'm a bit of a steamroller, they'll come back come back and say, I felt so much better about myself after I did that.
Right. Yeah, because you're not like licking your wounds.
Yeah, you're going out there, and we are built to have positive chemicals run through our body when we do acts of kindness.
Yeah.
We literally are physiologically created to be rewarded for doing acts of kindness, and then we have been brainwashed into disconnecting from that, from living in places of fear.
Right, because fear only feeds more fear.
Yep. So I got
speaking
back.
of feeding, I gotta go. I have another call. I love you tons.
Okay, so it is Pledge the Pink, and I'm going to put a link under this radio show, and I'm going to put a link on my thing if you want to go support my sister.
Music.
Well, my sister and I do it. It's called Pledge the Pink, and you'll find it in a comment underneath the radio show. Rayne, thank you so much.
Yay!
Love you.
Thank you. Good luck.